Finally, we get around to doing this. Yes, hello everyone, and welcome to what is the outline for the rest of my season. Obviously, tonight I was meant to be at Ergisbury Town versus Scarborough Athletic in the North Riding Senior Cup, but the weather has got the better of that one, and it could maybe be seen as a bit of a blessing in disguise on a personal level. I mean, I was looking forward to the game, of course I was, but I think as you've probably picked up on recently. Maybe found one or two things a little bit tough. I think the fact that I do a full-time job on top of all this YouTube stuff as well, I think it all has maybe just taken its toll a little bit. I mean, it's not so much been the filming side of it or anything like that. I think it's more so been the sort of rigorous process regarding the editing and I think just all the travelling that I've done recently as well. I mean, granted, obviously, there would have been a Gisborne game tonight. There wouldn't really be any travelling, but still, I think you kind of get what I mean. So, a good chance for me to maybe recharge my batteries a little bit this week. Obviously, got a long journey coming up on Saturday, but hopefully, I'll feel a bit more refreshed and ready for it. But anyway, let's crack on with this and let's start with obviously, you may have seen on Twitter, I've been frequently sort of posting about my overall aims for the season, which I set back in June before this current season had even started. So let's go down the list, and obviously the first one was 100% competitive attendance at Gateshead home games. Yeah, still on for that, and to be honest, can't foresee any reason why I shouldn't get that one really. Next up on the list, obviously, is the San Siro. Now, with this one, I've got my eye on a couple of potential weekends, and they are the two bank holiday weekends in May. A lot of it just depends on like sort of permutations with Gateshead and like will Gateshead get in the playoffs and like will Gateshead get the FA Trophy final again, and maybe even with Motherwell as well with with a cup and God forbid any like relegation playoff or anything like that. But yeah, as it stands, I'm thinking at one of the bank holiday weekends in May, but I'm keeping my eyes open with that one with regards to if anything like comes up that I know I can do. Like all I need is an early enough kickoff on a Sunday, so I know that I could make it back to the UK on a Sunday night, ready for work the next day. But next up is recompleting the Northern League. Now we only got one more to do in this after going to Chester Street United last week, and the last one I need is Washington. Now this one could be a bit easier said than done, given that given all the problems Washington are having with the pitch. They're one of those where it genuinely wouldn't surprise me if they end up having to play home games elsewhere. So that one might even be taken out of my own hands. You don't know. I mean, hopefully it won't be, but yeah, right now it's maybe not looking too good. Obviously, the next one after that was to complete the National League, which as a result of visiting Dorking I've now done. So that's been ticked off. At least 10 Football League games, including Premier League games. I'm not sure if I'll get this one or not. I mean, it could be a bit of a tight squeeze and I might fall maybe one or two short, but yeah, I think as well, obviously I'm counting EFL Cup games and EFL playoffs within that as well. Obviously I did that Borough against Chelsea game in the Carabao Cup semi-finals, so yeah, there is still a few more to come. Obviously a definite is this coming Sunday, Middlesbrough against Sunderland. Penciled in Barnsley against Bolton Wanderers for next month, providing Gateshead don't rearrange the game against either Solihull or Aldershot for that same night. So yeah, after that it's just a case of just see what I can get. But I will try. And contrary to that, is at least one game in all of the top 10 tiers of English football now. As I said, the only one that's maybe a little bit of a grey area at the minute is League One. So I'm confident I should get to a Premier League game at some point. Obviously, I've done a game in the Championship, done a game in League Two, obviously done a game in the National League, and every league apart from Step 3, I believe, downwards. But Step 3 is no bother really, is it? Next one is one I need your guys' help on, and that is 2,000 subs on YouTube. Now, as I speak, I think I'm on 1,657, so it's definitely doable. Tell your mates, tell your dog, tell your cat, tell your local butcher, so everyone who knows to come here, get behind the channel and help me achieve that aim. It would really, really, really mean a lot. And the next one after that was to break my current personal record for views on one video as it stood in pre-season, and I've done that. Did it in September with that Germany against Japan game. I think I've got a lot of Japanese people to thank for that. So cheers Japan. And next after that was a minimum of 3 Motherwell games. Well, I've done 4, so that's ticked off. And last but not least was to reach 350 visited grounds for all time. I started the season on 328. I'm now on 345. So I'm hopeful at least that I can get that one done. So that was the overall aims for this current season. And next up, let's just have a bit of a chat about maybe what's to come and what have you. Obviously, with regards to Gateshead at this moment in time, I think I should be at all the remaining games, barring walking away. Obviously, it's a bit too much of an ask to go to Surrey on a Tuesday night when I've got work commitments and what have you, and plus I've already booked the half days and what have you for Kidderminster on a Tuesday night. So, just got to accept that I will not be getting to all the remaining games. It'll just be a case of all bar one. But there is a very, very, very exciting prospect coming on the weekends of the 18th and 19th of May, and that is because I am visiting the continent once again, and on the Saturday night, on Saturday 18th, I'll be visiting Lille versus Nice, and a bit earlier on in the evening there's a game in one of the sort of local lower leagues that I can get done as well. So visiting France for football for the first ever time, so yeah, really, really can't wait for that. Then the next day is an absolute bucket lister. It's Feyenoord versus Excelsior. Now, you may remember if you've watched the Atletico Madrid video that I said after that I really wanted to visit Rotterdam to get Feyenoord ticked off, and I'm doing just that. I'm surprised how easy it was to get a ticket, actually, considering it's a little bit of a local derby as well, with it being against Excelsior and on the last day of the season. I mean, granted, Feyenoord against Excelsior is the same sort of calibre as derby as what Celtic against Partick Thistle would be, but still really, really glad that the opportunities come about, and it is most definitely something to look forward to. So with regards to all the other stuff, I'm going to try and get as many big games as I possibly can. I mean, obviously, still a lot to be decided in cup competitions, who gets playoff spots and what have you. So I'm not going to lie, I've not got sort of anything sort of planned for me yet, apart from obviously that weekend where I go onto the continent, all the other weekends, just playing it by ear for the time being. But before that, still some really exciting games to come, in my opinion. Obviously, as I mentioned earlier, Barnsley against Bolton, all being well, a massive game at the top of League One. This coming Sunday, Middlesbrough versus Sunderland. Some say it's a derby, some say it's not. But regardless, it is a massive game in the race for the Championship playoffs. As I mentioned, all the Gateshead games and a couple of exciting ones in there as well. So Hartlepool still to visit the International Stadium. Chesterfield could well win the league at Gateshead. I mean, to be honest, by the time I do come, I'm hoping that they'll have already had it wrapped up, and that might give us a better all-round chance in that game if they've sort of got nothing left to shoot for. And as well, obviously there'll be this usual batch of Northern League, bit of a mixture of everything really. I mean, I know it's been a little bit difficult to sort of cover the lower reaches in non-league this season, such as being the weather and games getting called off and what have you. But hopefully, the plus side to it all is that in the sort of closing weeks of the season, it will leave us with plenty of options. So yeah, and as well, I asked you guys to get some questions in, because now we are going to do a Q&A. So if just bear with me 1 second, I will get that up for you. So let's crack on with the questions. And first up is top 3 ground/stadiums you would most like to visit. Now, obviously, the main one's got to be La Bombonera, which is obviously Boca Juniors. I'd love to go there for a game against River Plate, but regardless, that is my mission for my lifetime, is to get to Buenos Aires and visit that. Obviously, there's the San Siro as well. Like hopefully by the end of this season, who knows. The third one, I would have said Feyenoord, but obviously I've got a date sort of set in stone for that now. But I think one that I obviously haven't got a date set in stone for that I'd love to do one day is Providence Park, which is a home of Portland Timbers, which I think I've mentioned a couple of times on previous videos. I mean, granted, those previous videos were quite a while back now, but yeah, that's definitely the one that stands out. Next up is who are the team you've seen Gateshead play the most, and which away day have you done most times? I think, if my memory serves correctly, the team I've seen us against most is Altrincham. Not sure exactly how many times I've seen us play them, but yeah, the one of those teams we seem to get pretty frequently in cup competitions. It's probably at the point now where before every cup draw, like Gateshead fans and Altrincham fans got a bit of a joke between them that we're obviously going to pull each other out. But in terms of who I've seen us away against most, I think obviously apart from Dunstan in pre-season, what have you, I think in terms of competitive games, I think it's York actually. I think like Bootham Crescent and the LNR Community Stadium between them do just about give York the win in that one. And this is an interesting one. Why don't you ever give replies to people that ask you things on any of your platforms? I've asked you a few things, but never get nothing back, and many others didn't. I left a comment a while back. Why don't you interact more with followers? This was a thing I sort of had to think about earlier in the season, and I know it's maybe an area I do slack a little bit in, but there's no like malice if I don't like reply to you or anything. It's just obviously I've got a lot of other things as well. I mean, I try to like sort of react to as much as I possibly can now, and I'm sort of trying to make sure that becomes a bit more of a thing. But sometimes I might just miss something. It's not intentional or anything like that. I mean, some other stuff I'm not gonna like rise to like people being absolute dickheads in the comment section or anything like that. Like just making horrible comments, because a lot of times it's just not really worth my time. So the next question is, what is your main goal in the next 5 years, football or life related, or both? Well, I want, what we're now, 2024, I want to go to Japan at some point. I think me and the better half have got that sort of penciled in for when I turn 30, which is in 3 years' time, to 2027. Other than that, I think like just make sure I've got like my house in order properly. I'm in a good full-time job, and like maybe even grow this channel even further. Like just see where I can get it. I do feel as though I don't have a ceiling as such. So yeah, I'd say that they're sort of the main ones. And a bit of a follow-up question from the same guy. If you had 3 days and free travel / accommodation, etc., what games would you choose to go to over the 3 days? Well, for me, I think it's probably a bit of a no-brainer. I'd maybe do a little bit of a tour of South America, really. Maybe a game or two in Brazil, maybe one game in Argentina. But I think the third and final game I'd want to do is definitely the Super Classico, the Boca Juniors versus River Plate, or vice versa. Yeah, that's the absolute standout one for me, and I think if we get 2 more games before it, just to keep that sort of tension and suspense building up until that game. I think that'd be an absolute dream way to do it, really. So yeah, that's the absolute dream. I've got to say. What's your long-term expectation for Gateshead? Do you see us as a football league club with new owners, or is the National League our ceiling? You know what? I'm really not sure because we all know things can change in football. Sometimes quite quickly, sometimes for better, sometimes for worse. I think if we just keep doing what we're doing in terms of off the pitch stuff, keep reaching out to the community. Just keep trying to do things the right way in terms of attracting people to come to the games. I really I don't see why we couldn't potentially push on for the Football League if we can just keep going about things the right way and make it a good place that players want to come and play football or keep playing the right way. You never know, that's the thing. So, I mean, I'm happy in the National League, I'm not going to lie. I think it is a very, very good level in this day and age, but I'm definitely never saying never to the dream of the Football League. So let's move on to the next batch of questions. What is your favourite and least favourite thing about non-league football and ground hopping / ground hoppers? I think favourite thing about non-league and ground hopping, what have you, has got to be just the whole community feel to it. I think it's absolutely brilliant. I think a lot of the time you go to a Premier League game, you don't know anybody that you're sitting around. You don't randomly bump into people that unexpectedly that often. Whereas at non-league, you've got every chance of that. It's just so, I'd say, down to earth, and I think that's probably why I do prefer it to maybe the higher reaches of the game. But in terms of least favourite thing about non-league and ground hopping / ground hoppers or whatever, I think one thing that doesn't sit right with me about ground hoppers is when they try and make everything into a bit of a competition and it's rule book left, right and centre. For me, there's no right or wrong answer as such. I mean, I know they give some people a bit of stick on Twitter and what have you, but it's all a bit in jest, really, isn't it? But it's just I don't think it really matters who's been to the most games, who's been to the most grounds. Everyone's circumstances are different. Some people like to follow their own team around quite a bit, which consumes a lot of time. Some people maybe can't commit to it as much because of work or family or whatever. Just let people just do it as they feel comfortable and as they suit and as they most enjoy. Because I think the minute you start forcing yourself to go to football or tick grounds off whatever, is the minute it stops becoming properly enjoyable, I'd say. So that's it's just a bit of advice more than anything. Best stadium you've been to and best food you've had at the football. Best stadium, I know it's a bit cliche and it's probably still a bit fresh because given it that it was this season, but Atletico Madrid, it was that stadium's just absolutely phenomenal. So glad I got the opportunity to go and highly recommend it to anyone out there. And best food I've had at football, again, still possibly a bit fresh because it was this season, but Avro was just absolutely sensational. Really, really was quite something. I mean, yeah, maybe a bit pricey in terms of non-league food, but worth every single penny. But maybe contrary to that question, worst stadium / ground you've been to so far this season? Well, I'm not going to lie, I'm still a little bit scarred from my experience at the Downhill Hub last week. I mean, the facility itself's not too bad. The cafe area and whatever is not too bad, but standing there in the wind and the rain belting into my face, it was maybe a little bit grim. So you've been to a lot of games so far this season, so what's the best pie you've had the pleasure of tasting? Well, I'm not going to lie, I'm a bit more of a burger man than I am a pie man. But I think if we are going on about pies, then I think the Doner meat pie at Motherwell's got to take some beating, hasn't it? But there was one, I think it was at Billingham Town earlier on this season that I really did enjoy. I don't know if it was when Yarman Eagles played for Horse, and I can't remember off the top of my head, but I just remember I really did enjoy that. Predictions for who goes up in the National League North and South. Well, National League North will do first. That's the one I know a little bit more about. And I know Tamworth are doing really well at the minute, but I do still think Scunny will, over the course of the season, have enough to get the League One. But for the playoffs at the minute, I'm not going to lie, I do fancy Scarborough. I don't know why, it's almost inexplicable, but I think the position that they're in just now, I think the culture and atmosphere that they've created around the club really does set them in good stead. The Flamingo Land Stadium is an absolute fortress, so if they can clinch third place or even fourth place or fifth place and be at home at some point, I really do think that could set them a long way. And I think with Scarborough as well, there's not really going to be that level of pressure on them. Like, say, for example, Scunny don't win the league, I think there's pressure on Scunthorpe in the playoffs will be absolutely enormous, and I'm not entirely convinced that they would be able to pull through with it. But so yeah, my tip for the playoffs is Scarborough, but I do think Scunthorpe will win the league, because if they don't, I think they might be in a bit of trouble. In terms of the National League South, where Yeovil are probably going to win the league now, let's be honest. But in terms of who goes up with them, I'm not sure. Are Worthing still up there? Because they've sort of been knocking on the door for a couple of years now, really, haven't they? Obviously, a lot of talk about Maidstone at the minute for obvious reasons. Yeah, I can't really call that one, if I'm telling you the truth. Best fans you've come across? Oof. I've come across a lot of good fans. I think I'm going to have to go with Rapid Vienna. When I went to Austria a few years ago, I thought their fans were just absolutely sublime, really. So yeah, it's probably quite tight. I think a lot of sort of best fans I've come across would be from mainland Europe, but I think that's probably the one that maybe sticks out the most in my head. What's the furthest you've ever travelled for a postponed game? Well, back in my days when I was living in Carlisle, I travelled up to Coatbridge in Scotland on a Wednesday night, I think it was. I think it was Coatbridge anyway. Anyway, it was for Kirkintilloch, Rob Roy versus Beath Juniors, I believe. And I got there, I was walking up to the ground, and my phone pinged, and it was an announcement that the game had been called off, and at that point I didn't have any time to find an alternative. I think the following season I was on my way down to Leamington to watch Gates, and that got called off while I was on the train, but I was able to get West Brom versus Charlton to sort of save the day. So I think, so for a postponed game where I didn't get an alternative, it's got to be that experience where I went to, I think it was Coatbridge, but I might be wrong. What's the furthest you've... So I believe that's it. Yep. So thank you very much for all your questions. It's been nice to just have a bit of a ramble on, really. I know I've maybe chatted for quite a long time, and I will leave you alone now, and I'll be back on Saturday with that Southend United versus Gateshead game. So big win for the Heat on Saturday. They maybe would have a look at times, but could it be a turning point? Check back Saturday to find out. But until then, take care. Cheers for watching. See you later.